When I saw the announcement, my initial reaction was, well, of course he's extended it. Of course he's got a contract in the 2026 season. They're not going to have him be a lame duck manager, right? Because even in Gardy's situation back, then Gardy would always have at least not just that year. He would have the next year.
Right.
Guaranteed,
it would roll over.
Right. It would,
so
right.
You got to the end
and that was a year by
year
year contract, but the year by year contract was 1 year into the future. That's when the option was going to be picked up. It was going to be picked up 1 year before it happened. And in fact, when Gardy got fired or resigned or however that worked, the dispute was, yeah, you're under contract for next year. Are you going to pick up the following year contract? And Tehran's answer was, I don't think we are. We're not going to pick up that year. And then, Gardy said, if you don't trust me to be doing, I don't want to be a lame duck manager, then let's just end this. That's how that went. And that's not an unusual way for that to go.
Here's how it's both an uncommon situation for managers or anybody in a management position in sports, and also a sort of negative position. It's called lame duck. That's not a real nice term to put on it.
I wouldn't have been shocked. I don't know exactly what I poked around as well. I don't know when this was actually picked up. I would have presumed this was picked up before spring training.
I don't think that's the case. I don't know that for certain. But
I don't either. Right. But that would often be the timing of it.
Right.
And now it wouldn't shock me too much if they didn't do that, just given the way the team ended last year, that maybe they decided to hold it over a little bit, something like that. Maybe that was part of the pressure that Baldelli was facing, in April, knowing that, he didn't have a contract for, the 2026 season. But that seems to be, most of the time in this industry, that's sort of the bare minimum. Is that you've got because this year under contract and the next year under contract.
There are a few ways that can go negatively for a team to sort of let it play out and leave the manager on an expiring contract.
Right.
One is, from a negative standpoint, that team could be aware of that. The manager is obviously aware of that, but the coaches could be aware of it. The players could be aware of it. And it could affect team morale. It could affect performance. It could just affect the manager's mindset day to day. And that, bleeds into other areas. The flip side to that, though, is if a manager is on an expiring contract and they go win the World Series or something like that,
that's right.
Then they got all the leverage. Contract works both ways, especially in sports, where teams often, you see it more with players, obviously, but you also see it with we just saw the New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau off an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, and then apparently went to every other team and said, we'd like to interview your under contract head coach. And because teams like the Wolves with Chris Finch had their coach under contract, they could say to the Knicks, go away.
No.
What are you talking? Or say we would need compensation to allow this to happen. Whereas if, let's say, Chris Finch was on an expiring contract and was now a free agent, then he can do whatever he wants, and all of a sudden he has incredible leverage over the Wolves. So,
didn't we just see this a couple of years ago with the Brewers and Craig Counsell, right?
Yes.
Craig Counsell ended up having a pretty successful year with the Brewers. His contract was up. Everybody thought he was going to re-sign with the Brewers, and instead the Cubs just came and snatched him away.
Right. So those are the reasons from a team perspective that they don't necessarily want a lame duck coach or manager.
Right.
There's a monetary issue here too, obviously, but I will also note, and this is just my personal speculation on this, I don't know that picking up Rocco Baldelli's 2026 option, well, it certainly makes it more likely than not that he's back next year's manager. I don't think it precludes a change there.
For sure.
Because we're not talking about a $20 million option.
Right.
I don't know what Rocco Baldelli makes, but it's like middle reliever money at best. It's not, he makes more than the minimum, but he doesn't make more than, a good regular in baseball. And I'm not just talking about Rocco. I'm talking about pretty much all managers.
Right.
And, they're making $1 million, $2 million, something like that. They're not making 8, 10, 15, 20 million. They're not on 5-year, $100 million contracts. And so, we could speculate about how much $1 million or $2 affects the decision making, particularly of a Pohlad-owned team that is trying to get out of owning the team.
Sure.
And so I'm not sitting here and being naive and saying that won't be a factor. But if this thing falls apart, I don't think that necessarily protects Rocco Baldelli. Makes it. I don't think it makes him immune to a potential change there. But it's an interesting situation that, like several other things the Twins have done in recent years, that they've sort of magnified in terms of the PR reaction or the fan base's reaction, or even doofuses like us talking about it, which is, if whether it was March or April, I don't know when it was, but whatever day they picked up the option, whatever day by the way, that's a decision they made. It's not like there was they forgot and it automatically, ticked in. Whatever day you make that decision, if you just announce it as a normal decision and, put your whole chest into that announcement, because theoretically you're happy to have done that. You decided to do it.
That's right.
If you just announce that as you would with any other transaction of that level, certainly, then okay, yeah, you're going to get people who think it was a bad move. You're going to get people who think it was a good move, just like any free agent signing or trade. But it's not going to be a situation where a month or two later or 3 months later, whatever it's been, where people are like, wait, what?
Right. At the worst possible time. I mean, we're coming out, like you said, not only in a stretch of bad games, but specifically following probably the worst weekend of baseball the Twins have seen locally for a couple of years. So, and welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you. Gleeman